Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to WSB Stony Brook. I'm here with Craig Owens. You may know him from multiple bands, Kyoto Cinematic Sunrise with Sound of Animals Fighting, and Destroy Rebuild Until God Shows. But currently, he's in his own project called badXchannels, which started up in 2016. So I usually start off with artists describing themselves and telling who they are, but most people know who you are. So let's just start the interview right off the bat with, how did you figure out what you're going to do musically right after Kyoto's officially ended and start badXchannels?
That's a good question. First, hi. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Yeah, it was a very natural progression for me. I didn't really sit down and say, what next, or how can I move in this lane or do this or that. It was more just natural sitting down and making music. A lot of the time, influences interact, and I think the way that just kind of more the trajectory of modern music as opposed to like my personal journey, if that makes any sense.
So was it difficult transitioning to kind of this like new genre? Because you mostly stick to the rock and metal genres. Now you're using all these different ambient electronic elements, avant-garde, whatever you may call it.
Yeah, I mean, it was musically. I'm hands-on with a lot of the music, multi-instrumentalist. So vocally, it was kind of an easy transition. In late 2015, I had started writing with Dr. Dre and working in that realm, I guess, for a little bit. So I had my feet wet, so to speak. But the musical aspect, focusing on that, focusing on production and sound design and things like that, that was a bit different from grabbing a guitar and writing a progression. Now a lot of the stuff I do is synth-based. A lot of it has to do, with Ableton and things like that.
So working with Dr. Dre, did that help you kind of find how this type of music is structured? Because like compared to, again, like the older projects that you had, it's kind of different progressions, with choruses and verses and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that there's a time and a place for structure, and I think the song usually tells you when that is. I try not to get caught up because I find that my work can meander a little bit if I aim to crowd please via structure. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So as compared to, say, your older projects, how much demoing do you do for badXchannels?
I guess I wouldn't really call it demoing. A lot of the time it's done right after I do it. But I'm in the studio a lot. Right at the end of Kyoto's, I started doing a lot of production work. And this allowed me to focus on the musicality and the things that really made me fall in love with music in the first place. The excitement of trying different progressions, of working in different keys, trying to incorporate accidentals and minor sevenths and dark things like that. So I kind of refound my muse through that experimentation of the demoing of the music of badXchannels. So vocally, I would say that there are two different sides to badXchannels. One is a bit more of a direct, focused, communicative thing. Another is a very ethereal side. And, it's the project's still new, and I'm still working really hard behind the scenes, to kind of focus in. But I think that, eventually I'll be able to find this happy medium between the two, between the avant-garde and the lo-fi kind of, electronic music.
So you do feel that it's kind of going to stick to only those areas and not evolve into trying to implement, like, everything?
Yeah, I'm going to definitely. I'm focusing in on the sound. I think that natural evolution in music is necessary. I think that if you stick to, it's just my personal taste. If I stuck to trying to create, the same album for like 30 years of my life or 40, it
gets repetitive.
Challenge me. Yeah, it just doesn't challenge me musically, and it definitely doesn't make me fulfilled in my journey.
Mm. What do you feel is your favorite aspect of being an independent artist now?
Yeah, I find that it is easier to be myself and less
Mm.
of a brand. A lot of the time, it's a very focused attention on one specific aspect of a niche, and you aggressively kind of attack it. And
Mm.
sometimes that might not be exactly where it is that you wanted to go, or you might go a little bit further down, and as the project evolves,
Mm.
all of a sudden you're stuck in a niche and you can't move anymore. You
Mm.
know, so I think that freedom is really nice. And just being able to grow at a natural pace for
Mm.
myself without kind of being pushed into, you know, like,
Mm.
let's try and make this thing the biggest thing we possibly can as quick as we can. It feels more natural. It feels more honest. I can
Mm.
connect in those, you know, those worlds a little more and
Yeah.
spend the amount of time, because I'm not just thinking that I can switch anything and everybody comes with me. You know, it's
Yeah.
going to take a lot of work. So,
Let's talk a bit about some of your songs. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the music video for Free Dotted X Lines off your first EP, YDFML. So went
hmm
into the process of making that because it was pretty interesting with the black and white structure and kind of all the visual elements in it.
yeah. So basically, when I wrote "What Have You Done for Me Lately," that first EP, it
Mm.
was kind of my experimentation part of the journey. I sat down and I thought of all this new modern lo-fi,
Yeah.
R&B, stuff like that that had kind of influenced and found its way into, you know, into my my playlists and, you know, my speakers every time I'd turn on
Yeah.
music. And so Dotted Lines was really the first visual I had
Mm.
attached to one of those, you know, experiments.
Yeah.
And for Dotted Lines, I reached out to a friend, Sam Halim, and he had enjoyed the stuff I'd done previously, and we
Mm.
just kind of just worked together and
Mm.
created this beautiful black and white visual that represents the sonics and
Yeah.
the aesthetic of the song. I think it really matches with the dark,
Yeah.
like kind of electronic tones, reminiscent of, you know, like I would say that song's a little more
Mm.
reminiscent of like the neighborhood or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we went to Joshua Tree and filmed, this kind of artsy video for it.
All right, so recently you released Blue Abyss and Don't Come and See Me. Definitely more ambient and kind of a darker nature than off of YDFML. What are
hmm
your favorite aspects of these songs?
The natural movement within them, they kind of come and go as they please. They are more of a feeling than a self-parading advertisement. They are introspective.
Yeah.
They carry weight if you can sit and let them illuminate those feelings within yourself,
Mm.
then they kind of take over. So I really love the heaviness that I feel when I listen to them,
Mm.
because I feel like they're so weighted with emotions, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it goes well with kind of what you use like with the Sims and kind of how like out of nowhere dynamically they just hit you like really hard.
And I think that's been something that is apparent through all of my catalog of,
Mm.
of work since I was a kid. It's always dynamics. I always pay attention to the emotive qualities of, what it
Mm.
is that I'm trying to communicate through the music.
With Blue Abyss, you worked with 50 Grand. What was it like working with him and kind of taking influences from multiple artists like Zappa?
Well, I love 50 Grand. So 50 is actually, my favorite artist.
Mm.
So this was a really, really big moment for me. in my search for sound design to find the exact colors and landscape to badXchannels, I came across 50s music, and I fell in love immediately. It was like every twist and every turn that he took, every breath he took in the music was the same, ones that I would have.
Yeah.
So it felt very familiar in that way. So when I reached out to 50 to work on music together, it happened all very naturally. It unfolded very naturally. And when we met up in Laurel Canyon on Wonderland Avenue to do Blue Abyss, it was a very, very natural experience. We just sat down, and it was like I was writing with myself, even, like another one of me. It was great. I really, really loved it, and I'm really proud of it and how it came out.
With working on your own music with badXchannels, you also, I think it was last summer, I don't know if you're still doing it, but you've been working with smaller artists on their EPs and LPs and helping them produce their music. I know one of them was Long Island local from here. They're called Sylvan. They worked with you with their release 22. So what's it, again, like working with these smaller artists?
I love it. I love it so much. I'm actually in the studio today. I'm on a lunch break, and I'm doing an EP for this band out of Michigan that kind of sounds, like Mineral or Christy Funk Drive, or like The Promise Ring, that kind of old school emo. I love it. Being in the studio over the last 2 years has helped me refocus on the important things of, why it is that I've gotten started. And there's nothing like teaching and helping up-and-coming artists that are, in a similar vein to what it is that I do. I love working on tones. I love developing relationships with these, these up-and-coming artists, because I feel like I just remember what it was like when I was in their shoes, and I understand the weight of it, and helping them achieve their goals and their visions sonically, I think is always really rewarding. And it doesn't feel like work or anything. I really love it.
Kind of with you teaching these smaller artists, I know, again, I mentioned Sylvan, they went to the studio with you, and when I interviewed them about their record, they talked all good things about you, don't worry, but they told me how you helped them kind of achieve what they need to, and they learned from you. But do you ever learn anything from smaller artists, musically, or just how to go about things that you maybe never did before?
Every day. Yeah, every day. I think that that's kind of a mantra that I've carried around my entire life. I think that everybody has something to say. Everybody has a perspective, and if you take the time to look at it from their perspective, you may learn something new that can open up, a door or a window for you to move a little more freely. So, I literally learn something every day. That's the best part about teaching, is how much you learn. And it's something that they don't really talk about, when they talk about teaching. But, I love it, and I have learned so much, from guitar tones to structure to,
everything.
musicality. Everything, really everything, So I really love it, and I definitely learn a lot from these, from everyone.
So I just want to bring one thing up before we end the interview. This year is going to be the last year of Warped Tour and kind of that alternative music festival cross country. So how do you feel about that festival ending? Because I know you've been on it with your bands a couple of times, and it's kind of been a staple for people to go to during the summer for alternative music, because there's nothing really else like it, per se, because other festivals are usually, at select locations. And do you think it's going to be anything after it?
I'm not really sure. I know that there are a few out there that are continuing to expand. I think it's difficult today with the evolution of music specifically, to always follow and hit all the trends on all the new generations coming up.
Mm.
There's a lot of music. There's a lot of opportunity to, I guess, get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have nothing but, you know, good things to say about Warped Tour and Kevin Lyman. They helped shape and develop who I am, you know, as a human being, and I'll forever be grateful.
All right, so how about you just let people know where they can keep up with you and badXchannels?
Yeah, you can follow badXchannels on Spotify or SoundCloud. You can find it on YouTube. Just badXchannels.com works as well. You can find my profiles, my social media profiles that I'm trying to get better at updating. Instagram is just badXchannels, and Twitter is Craig Owens, and on Facebook it's badXchannels as well.
All right, well, thank you for joining me and talking a bit about your career and badXchannels and producing music. For the audience out there, make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the show.